To approve a $319.01 donation from Donors Choose for Mrs. Cassie Harrell's preschool class for individual student chair pockets and name tags. We also have a recommendation to approve a $250 donation from International Violin Competition of Indianapolis 2022 Jury Exhibition of Student Art. The monetary donation is in appreciation of Mrs. Katie Gray and the Metro Art Program, Metro North Art Program. Those are the.
I move to accept donations.
Second.
Motion and second to accept the donations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
School recognition, Mr. Kefauver.
Yes, I'd like to share some that our principals have shared, and I'll start with Mr. McDaniel from Southwood Junior Senior High School. He says, congratulations to Mo Lloyd, grade 12, for being named Baseball Across Indiana High School Player of the Week. In the last 5 games, he was 9-15 with 7 home runs and 20 RBIs. That's pretty good. And then, of course, Southwood Junior Senior High would like to recognize Angie LaChavio and Tyler Cook for their work coordinating the 8th grade field trip to Washington, D.C. The students were able to visit various Smithsonian museums, the Gettysburg Civil War battle site, the Lincoln Memorial, the Pentagon 9/11 Memorial, and many other significant historical landmarks. Also, a special thank you goes to Mr. Jeffrey Finnicle for helping chaperone the trip. Also from Southwood, the Southwood community would like to recognize Ms. Egan, who will be retiring after 43 years of service to MSD Wabash. Ms. Egan served as special education teacher, but fulfilled so many different roles in the school. We appreciate her dedication to the students, staff, and school. Best wishes to, in your retirement, Beth. A couple more here. Scroll down. And then from Northfield, Mr. Snyder, congratulations to Ainsley Dale, Emily Pennington, and Jake Halderman for honors they received at the TRC banquet last Wednesday. Jake and Emily each received the Mental Attitude Award, and Ainsley received the Scholar Athlete and Distinguished Academic Honor Awards. Also from Northfield, senior Maya Hunter was awarded the Wabash Kiwanis Club Midwest Eye Consultants Self-Reliance Award last Tuesday. She will use this $1,000 to get her started as she pursues a social worker degree from Ball State University next fall. So congratulations to Maya. Also from Mr. Snyder, on May 10th, 2 Northfield High School seniors took home awards at the Wabash County Innovate Pitch Competition. Congratulations to Heath Tackett, first place, and Andy Schuler, second place, and for putting in all the hard work and preparation for this competition. And I think I have one more. Ty Lemming and Ruby Weaver each received junior high citizenship awards at our junior high awards at Northfield. These are very distinguished and important awards because they are in honor of past NHS students, Jonathan Snyder and Rhonda Shaw. These are awards that are received because of how these students treat staff and their fellow classmates, as well as their hard work. Congratulations to Ty and Ruby, and thank you for your positive example and leadership you set at NHS. And then Mrs. Moore has a couple.
Sure. The last meeting, I think I shared that we had our numbers for summer programming. As of just a few minutes ago, we have 217 elementary students participating in summer programming. 66, is my number right? Yep, 66 are taking part in Minds in Action, which is similar to Science in Motion. And then 151 are going to participate at Metro North or Southwood and just elementary academic support program. So that's exciting. And then our Little Knights preschool a couple weeks ago had their licensing visit and passed with flying colors on that. Hey. And that takes a lot of behind the scenes. You know, they've all had to have their fingerprinting and their TB testing and their CPR and first aid and just this long list to make sure that we are safe programming for our preschoolers. So it's exciting.
Very good, thank you. And I did have another one here. Southwood Junior Senior High School is proud to announce that seniors Joey Bland and Maya Denny have been nominated for the Albright Gimlick Excellence Scholarship. This $8,000 scholarship honors exceptional senior student athletes who have demonstrated excellence on the field, in the classroom, and in the community. So that's what I have as far as that. And now I would like to honor our spotlight. So Aubrey Carey is our student. She is a Southwood student, and she just reminded me today that she is not a freshman. She is now a sophomore. Because today's the last day of school, so she's no longer a freshman. So Aubrey, if you want to stand up here, and Miss Lindsay Nee, let's stand up. First of all, let's give her a round of applause for being So, Aubrey, go ahead and tell us a little bit about why you nominated Miss Nee.
Missy really likes to interact with the students, and she makes learning music fun. And she really cares about her students, and she's just overall really nice.
And Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
being a Southwood representative as assistant principal, go ahead and share a little bit of.
Well, I can speak for Mr. McDaniel and myself both. We're very pleased with Miss Nee, having her at Southwood this year. We went from a halftime choir position, halftime band position, to Miss Nee going full-time choir and band, taking that all on. And so she's kind of doing the work of three people now as a choir director, band director, and our drama director. She's also taken that just head first. I think the first week of school or so, she came in the office and she said, "Hey, can I do the drama?" We're normally sometimes we're begging and pleading for people to do things like that. So she's done a great job with that. Just recently had concerts last Sunday, a couple Sundays, for band and choir. The musical has now taken place involving students from Northfield, Southwood, and Wabash. And so it was really, really great to see those things, and she's just done a great job connecting with our kids.
And I'd like to just echo that too, because that's what I've seen already is just tremendous in the first year. And not only just regular, the concert band, but also a pep band, jazz band. You have a jazz band, you do some different things with some contests, and just really have done a lot. And I just like to echo, I don't want to talk a lot, but just to echo that with Mr. Lacy, so we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So again, you are the spotlight. This is the new car, like I said, did
Thank you
not come
so
in.
much.
Yeah.
License plate though, because it was
Yeah. We always make everybody read the card, so you gotta read the card.
This part?
Yeah, that's part, yes.
Okay, because you dreamed big and worked hard, you figured out that you went soft with stress. That's so nice.
Yeah. But anyways, it's.
Car seats are soft.
Yeah. Depends on what kind you get, but anyway. So tomorrow, you won't use that probably a bit. The other days this summer you will, so.
Well, I have the music department to myself, so I can take a nap. No one would know.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, let's give him a round of applause. You're welcome to stay, or you're welcome to leave too. You got a good picture then? Because we usually,
Oh, you want to
Okay,
pose?
let me
Oh,
get
we're
out of
gonna
the
pose? Okay.
we usually send them a picture, but.
Can I put my arm around it?
That's a good one there.
Was that slimming?
She has.
Thank you.
You can tell that. There'll be a special.
All right, we'll move on. At this point,
Well, they do have there's extra chairs then for those, we have chairs now, so, and we can spotlight you too if you want.
yeah, there's like 3 extra chairs up here now. At this point, we're going to move on to public comment for agenda items only. I will point out that later in the meeting, under the new business, we are going to have a hearing that is dedicated to what I suspect most of you are here for. So while we don't have any restrictions about making public comment on any agenda item, just keep that in mind that we're going to have a larger comment period later. So anybody want to speak on any of the other items that are going to be that's on the agenda? Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda items. First item is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on May 10th.
Move to approve those minutes.
Second. Motion and second to approve the minutes from our last meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Financial claims.
No questions, I move to claims.
Second.
Motion and second to approve claims, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Payroll.
Nothing out of the ordinary for payroll. We will start seeing an increase as we conclude the school year with our coaching stipends. Participated in like theater, did those positions, department heads, that type of stuff.
I move to approve payroll.
Second.
Motion and second to approve payroll, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Financial summary, Dr. Kuhn.
So at this time of the month in our board meetings, we just do a cash flow forecast for the year in our education operation fund. So this shows what our actual expenditures and revenues have been since January to April, and then the forecasted amount throughout May through December. And then we factor in possible changes in enrollment, ADM dollars, tuition support dollars, and those types of things. So this kind of shows you where we've started at the beginning of the year to where we're at the end of the year. And that's really more for those people that are out here that don't see this from time to time. So the forecasted budget shows that we should end just over $8 million in our education fund at the end of the 2022 year. Obviously, there's factors that involve with that, like I said, ADM and those types of things. We'll have a little bit better handle of what our new monies may look like based off of our estimates that we gave the state of what our potential ADM might be going into first semester of 2022.
Just want to reiterate how good a job you guys have done with that. What was it, 2017? 2015?
Yeah.
Where was it? You would have read. Yeah, about
Almost
600,000.
$500,000,
Yeah.
yeah.
And now we're 8 million in the black. Credit to you guys for the good job you guys done.
And then similar forecast there for operation, showing you the actuals up to April, and then estimate costs and revenues through the rest of the calendar year. So that's all I have on the financial side of things.
Anybody have any questions for him? Since there aren't any questions for Dr. Kuhn, we'll move on to the personnel recommendations. Under resignations, we have Felicia Hall, paraprofessional at Southwood Elementary, effective the Hannah McDivitt, paraprofessional, Southwood Elementary School. Marcia Kratzer, cook at Southwood High School. Faye Satterwhite, paraprofessional, Metro North Elementary. Under employment, we have Amy Unger, psychologist intern, WMAP. Angela Myers, EHS intervention teacher at WMAP. Lisa Hazlett, data technology assistant for the admin office. Matthew Schmidt, music teacher at Southwood Elementary. Karen Vanderpool, 5th grade teacher at Southwood Elementary. Allison Bartu, custodian at Southwood High School. Tony McKellop, assistant volleyball coach, Northfield. And a big long list of summer school employees. Jeanette Moore, elementary director. Tanya Boone, secondary director. Adam Phelps at Minham shared, and Kathy Goldman at Minham. Michaela Meyer and Tim Calloway, both for SAE. Patty Steele, Minds in Action. Cammie Ross, Minds in Action. Ava Simpson, Minds in Action aide. Tara Hopper, primary reading teacher. Teresa Coe, primary reading aide. Alyssa Dieter, primary reading teacher. Mary Dye, primary reading aide. Stacy James, primary reading aide. Angie Herring, summer school teacher. Jennifer Cox, summer school teacher. Megan Wright, summer school teacher. Allison Mons, YMCA teacher, Nicole Knox, YMCA teacher, Rhonda Dubuque, YMCA teacher, Patty Steele, Katie Johnson, and Heather Amos, all YMCA teachers. Becca Elzey, summer aide for kindergarten. April Howard, summer aide for kindergarten. Madeline Daisy, summer aide, first and second grade. Meredith Kelly, summer aide, first grade. Kelly Bear, summer aide, second grade. And Shelby Drake, summer aide, kindergarten. And that is our list of HR.
I moved to the slate.
Second.
A motion and a second to accept HR as read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Reports, Heartland Career Center report. Do you have anything for us, Matt?
Unfortunately, I do a little bit. You know how we were working on that building project for the adult education, and there's been kind of I won't say, dragging of feet, trying to figure out whether our students can use this building because it's supposed to be an adult learning center, and they wanted to put it on our ground for that. It's taken them a long time to figure out whether our students can use it. Well, there was a phone call, I think it was last Tuesday or Wednesday, somewhere last week. And I finally talked to one of the heads of the EDA, and they said the students can use the building if those classes go to certifications. That's mostly what Heartland does, is do certifications. But if those certifications and classes count towards high school diploma, they can't use that building. So there's really no reason for Heartland to have this building there if our students can't use it. So that's a huge standstill, and so they're gonna have to figure out what they want to do with that grant that they have gotten. So very disappointing. I mean, just adult education center but our students can use it if they're getting certification outside the school. So I thought I'd update you on that. Other than that, they had their graduation that Mike stood in for me last night because I was in the track. So,
Sounds like they did a bait and switch on us.
yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right, Mr. Kefauver, superintendent's report.
Yeah, I just have a few things. Of course, we want to congratulate all the students that completed the 2021-2022 school year. And we had one of those students here. I don't know if I see any other students. I don't, but congratulate them. Also, just to let you know about the graduations again, White's Junior Senior High School Bridge graduation is June 4th. That's a Saturday at 3 p.m. at the Southwood Auditorium. And then, of course, we have others that are ongoing because they graduate throughout the year. Northfield's graduation is on June 5th at 2 p.m. Southwood's graduation is on June 5th also at 5 p.m. Just a reminder, summer school begins. We finished today, but summer school will begin next Tuesday, May 31st, and run through June 30th. I believe that's correct. And our students at White Junior Senior High School will finish on June 28th. So we still, even though a large part of our students are finished today, there's a lot of other students that will be coming. I think Mrs. Moore said last time, we have over 200 students that are coming through summer school. And of course, we have the students at White's that continue also. So that's that. Also, just to give you a heads up for those parents that are here, registration for the 2022-2023 school year, we have to say that because school is out, right? And so our first day is on August 10th. Registration is July 25th through August 1st. That's the online registration we've done for several years. And the on-site online registration will be August 1st for both North and South from 10 to 6 p.m. You'll be receiving phone calls if you have children from me later on about that information, so you can mark your calendars. You don't have to worry about it right now. Also, one thing I just want to mention, the United States Department of Agriculture has actually provided meals for all of our students across the country for the last couple of years. There's still some question about that, but more than likely we'll go back to the regular meals of course, you can apply for free and reduced lunches, but also paid meals, and we'll also send things out about that also later on. At one point, they were saying they may extend that, and then again, they said maybe they won't, and so it's been back and forth, but the latest that we've heard is that it will not be extended, so we have to get everybody back on track on that part of it, so we'll keep you informed about that. Probably you'll be receiving something on Friday, and then we'll also send something to you at the end of summer right before registration. So that's all I have for now, Mr. Davis.
Mr. Drake, curriculum
Yeah, I want to touch base first on summer school. It's just amazing to me that we can get 29 staff members willing to come in over the summer and work. So many of them have other things going on, they have their own families to attend to. And so Mrs. Morris put together, I love to call it summer school on steroids. And that doesn't happen if we don't get teachers. And so many of those teachers, try to get the parents and the families to come in because these kids need that help. And I'm just thankful. I don't know. I guess it's easy to read that and say, oh yeah, but please don't. That's a huge dedication and commitment by our staff. And it's fortunate that we can use ESSER dollars to kind of help pay them for their time, because again, it's just kind of above and beyond. On that note, we have two options of programs. We've started with our students through the school year that they can continue at home. Our license goes through that. And so IXL is one of those. We actually have had a family. I'm sure their child was not very happy that they asked for us, but their IXL license they got from their school, they can log on to any personal device using their school email over the summer. But the one thing that I was excited for, and I knew we'd have a crowd, so I put these out there. If you saw these, please take one and hand them off to somebody you know. All MSD kids can get an online book from, thanks to Pulaski County Public Library, on any device. So some kids read on their phones, some kids read on their iPads. And so because of our partnership with Pulaski County, Mrs. Moore, am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, she corrected me the last time, so I just want to make sure I'm ahead of that one. And so they just log on using their school email and their school password, and then they can get any book that's in the digital consortium library. And so we do have some kids excited about. We do have readers, and so there's extra flyers if you want to grab one and take it if you have a family member or a kid that might want to do that. Yeah, and we are wrapping up now all of our testing, and so I tried to list them here. We wrapped up our NWEA, our SAT data is in, iLearn data is in, and we're just wrapping up summer iRead here in a couple of weeks. And so I will have lots of data reports to bring back your way. I will echo again, as much as we beat up on the IDOE, this year we were able to share iLearn scores with teachers and students before they left the building. And I had probably a half dozen meetings with teachers, and they were very excited to see that, because then it tells them how they're doing, where their kids are, what they need to change for next year. As a matter of fact, just this morning I was talking to a high school teacher for iLearn biology. And so anyway, I'll have that data hopefully compiled by our next board meeting, if not the one after that. And with that, summer school has begun and the school year ends.
All right. Okay, we're going to move on to new business. First item under new business is a recommendation to approve the 2022-2023 curriculum material course fees.
So, giving you the elementary textbook rental fees, nothing is changing with those. There were some slight adjustments in some of the areas and some of the upper grades, but there's no overall change in what the total amount is, which we've been at 190 for elementary textbooks since I was a principal. So that's been at least 10 years where we've been keeping this, trying to keep textbook fees as low as possible with that. And so elementary principals get together and kind of hammer out the details and make some of those changes in areas that certain materials may be needed. Then at the high school, principals get with their bookkeeper. Remember, we share one bookkeeper between the two high schools, and they work with their department heads on what textbook fees should be for the courses that students take. So their textbook fee overalls vary depending on the courses that they're taking for that school year.
You looking for a motion for that?
Yes.
Yes, I was waiting for any questions, or if Tim or Jeanette had anything to say more about what I presented, so
Well done, Mr. King.
thank you. It was easy.
I move to accept approval of the curriculum material course fees.
Second. Have a motion and second to approve the recommendation for the curriculum material course fees for next school year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next we have a recommendation to approve the PERF resolution.
So we approved this a few board meetings ago, back when we made changes to our classified salary rates and handbook, because we made some adjustments with PERF. We approved it. When we submitted the form, PERF came back to us and told us that they gave us the wrong form. And so nothing has changed as far as what we're asking, it's just on a different form. And so I'm asking for your approval so that we can submit the correct form to NPERS.
Move to accept the new PERF resolution.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the new the new form for the PERF resolution. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Recommendation to approve the 2022-2023 Board of Education meetings.
And nothing really has changed with these. Typically, we have our meetings on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, minus typically October and December and June. Sometimes we have to have those to meet different deadlines, but that is typically what we have done over the last year. We really have not ever had, I think, two on in December, but we kind of reduced one in October and one in June. But if we need it, we'll have to add those. This is recommendation for the 2022-2023 school year.
So
Second.
Motion and second to approve the 2022-2023 Board of Education meeting schedule. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have the first reading and review of the 2022-2023 elementary handbook.
Mrs. Moore.
Sure. Just some minor changes. On the cover, we updated the year. And then also on page I, we also updated on page 1, Mr. Swaffer as the principal. On page 9, we added the information about the annual notification for Medicaid billing, which came to us from area program. On page 16, we added some clarification regarding field trips. When it is a field trip that is occurring during the academic day, we are going to require students to ride the bus there and back to school. Sometimes parents want to take their child with them, but it helps us keep a regular roll and call of who is where. So we will require students both then and there. But we did add at the principal's discretion, we could amend that for extenuating circumstances. One of those would be, I had a student fall on a field trip last week and the mom needed to come and pick her up to take her to be checked out. On page 17, we added information about elementary athletics, and we essentially copied this from the high school handbook so that we have information for our students that's consistent, that are playing athletics or involved in athletics in grades 5 and 6, as well as those that play up. I think I'm using the right phrasing, that they may be a 6th grader but playing on a 7th grade team. So that's consistent language, mostly regarding their grades, as well as those requirements about having a physical and completing the forms with their respective high school. And then we updated the school calendar to reflect next year.
I move to approve.
No, we don't. This is first reading, so we'll do that next time. I just wondered if anybody had any questions for it.
All right.
All right, next we have the first reading and review of the 2022-2023 high school handbook.
Yes, thank you for having me this evening. Just again, a few changes, as Mrs. Moore stated, we just a approval date, table of contents, page numbers, and things like that will be revised after this is approved. We also, same document, I'm sure that Mrs. Moore is putting in elementary, but for Medicaid billing from area program is going in. We're adding in also statements concerning attendance, a couple of different places to go with current practices. Excessive unexcused absences will result or may result, in a referral to attendance mediation. Attendance mediation is a program we're working with kind of a third party outside of probation and the court services to clear up attendance issues before they need to maybe go to probation or court services. So we're just adding that in. That is something that we now already do. Also adding a statement in about participation in extracurriculars and in regards to attendance. Basically, if a student, this will be mainly for seniors, but if they're in an internship through either Heartland Career Center or through MSD's internship program, for the most part, they attend classes periods 1, 2, 3, and then leave. After that, we would like to say that they need to be present at their home school, whether Southwood or Northfield, on the day of that event, whether that be practice, game, whatever it may be that they're doing extracurricular wise, that they be in attendance for those periods 1, 2, and 3 with us to be able to participate that afternoon or evening. Pages 56 and 69 are also in the athletic handbooks. One is for Northfield, I believe, in page 56. Page 69 is Southwood's athletic handbook, and that is just amending that statement to match what's in the academic portion that I just told you about there as far as attendance to participate. And then again, as Mrs. Moore stated too, we just updated the school calendar for next year.
All right, we'll move on. Next, we have, looks like Mr. Kiefer trying to find it, a recommendation to approve an overnight extended camping trip for Northfield Cross Country Team to visit Mrs. Cinewell Campground June 6th through the 9th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the overnight extended camping trip. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Recommendation to approve an overnight extended trip for Southwood Wrestling Team to Purdue University Sports Camp on June 12th through the 15th, 2022.
So moved.
Motion and second to approve the overnight extended trip for Southwood Wrestling Team. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Recommendation to approve the overnight extended field trip for Minds in Action 2 students to Indiana Dunes State Park and Spring Mill State Park, June 1st to the 3rd.
To approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the overnight extended trip for Minds in Action students. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Drake.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, I suspect is why you're here, is a preliminary determination hearing on the proposed construction project. If you're interested in speaking at this hearing, please make sure you have signed the sign-in sheet. If you've not done that and wish to, we can still get that to you. Make sure you have signed the sheet and include your name and address. After a presentation by the administration and our advisors, there'll be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the project. At the hearing, we will ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes out of respect for others who may wish to speak. No one's going to haul you away if you go more than 3 minutes, but please be respectful of others. And we also stress that we'd ask that the topic be limited to the proposed project under consideration. The notice of this preliminary determination hearing was published as legally required on May 14th, 2022 in the Wabash Plain Dealer. At this time, I will ask Mr. Kiefer to explain the purpose of this hearing.
And the purpose, Indiana Code 6-1.1-20-3.5, a school corporation must hold 2 public hearings and adopt the resolution to preliminarily determine to issue bonds or to enter a lease for a project which has a total project cost in excess of a non-controlled project. These public hearings are the very beginning of the legal process.
And we'll also hear from Mr. Kefeber and others about the process of determining and communicating the project to the community and the need for the project and the history and process to this point, and how the proposed project meets the needs and the description of the project and how it addresses needs and expected timing of the construction and renovation.
All right, well, thank you. So we have a slide deck here we'd like to share with you. And some of this was actually, part of it was even in our September work session that we had, but we'll just go ahead and get started to go along with what Mr. Daisy said and the reason why we're doing this. So the district strategic priorities, we have the 4 different ones that were actually looked at and developed in actually 2019. So student achievement, recruitment and retention of students, but also for staff, financial and facilities and technology. And for the last several months, we've been really focusing on priority number 4, even though all of them wrap up into one nice package because they all kind of are combined together. So priority number 4, facilities and technology. It says provide safe and efficient learning environments. So the objective 4.1 is optimize utilization and determine feasibility of current facilities or other possibilities. And that's what we've been doing. So community communication, these are some of the things that we've had different community work sessions and meetings. So started all back in April 17th of 2019 with the school board work session to work on strategic planning. We had Dr. Deb Leckleiter from, actually she was on her own, but she's a professor, associate professor at Butler University. So she started that process with us. We actually then went to all the buildings and had strategic plan presentations. We then had public hearings or public strategic plan presentations at both Northfield and Southwood. If you look at those dates, the 17th and 27th, that was right before COVID started on March 13th. But anyway, we did have those presentations at those schools open to the community. September 22nd, we ended up with another school board work session to look at the strategic plan reviewed and updated because it is a 5-year plan. And then continued on with policy analytics to assess the assessed valuation and tax rates. November 10th, school board work session reviewed strategic plan with Bart Villama, our architect. And then going in 2021 in January, them coming in, we also had a SWOT analysis, toured buildings during that work session. And then getting a little closer to now, September 28, 2021, had a board work session on strategic plan 4 update. The board meeting then that same night, recommendation to approve the resolution authorizing appraisals of real estate. And then April 12th, most recently, or almost most recently, school board work session. We had Ice Miller, our bond counsel, come in to talk about controlled project process and referendum, presentation to the school board meeting, and recommendation to approve the resolution authorizing negotiation and execution of the purchase agreement of that real estate. And then May 10th, the school board work session again, update from the architecture firm Barton Covilla. So been a lot of things that have been going on that have been open to the public, and most of the, maybe not the very first one, but most of those work sessions have been Facebook Live, so you can go back and review those on our Facebook page. Also, we were the first school district in Wabash County that started the Facebook Live, so people could watch from home, and we've been doing that ever since. So we want to talk about where we came from. There could be a lot of jokes about that, but where we came from. So the picture that you see there is actually in the back corner. MSD Wabash County School Board in 1959, July 1st of 1959, MSD of Wabash County became a corporation. And we had these gentlemen that actually were on the board. And of course, they were looking at all these different township schools. And what were they going to do about all the township schools, with all the students and the buildings and things like that. And so then in 62, 63 is when they opened up Southwood and Northfield. It's kind of close to my heart too, because my dad was a band director, and he actually was at LaFountain and different places after LaFountain burned, and then was a teacher at Southwood the very first year. I always say too, my wife was a Northfield graduate. I have to make sure I plug that in there too. So, but where we came from. So 60 years later, we are here, a little bit over 60 years. So you can see 1959 is when MSD became a corporation. Northfield and Southfield, I already mentioned, they opened up the doors at 62. And then in 65 through 1980, the other elementaries were built and occupied. So just some history there. So where we are today. So you can see that we have two preschool programs at both the Little Norths and Little Knights at Southwood Elementary and at Metro North Elementary. We have the 3 elementary schools. We have the 2 traditional junior senior high schools, and of course the non-traditional junior senior high school, White's Junior Senior High School. We have the Bridge program, which is an online credit recovery program. We are actual member schools of, I'm kind of skipping to Heartland Career Center. Mr. Driscoll is the board member from MSD for that. And then, of course, we are the LEA for the Wabash Miami Area Program, which is our special education co-op. The 5 schools that feed into Wabash Miami Program and Heartland Career Center are both the 5 school districts. So it's nice to have that collaboration with those schools in that program. So we did a SWOT analysis. I don't know if I'll read all these, maybe I probably should. So the strengths, assess valuation, retiring debt, last payment will be in 2023, cash balances in the rainy day fund. You saw some of those quickly, not necessarily the rainy day fund, but you did see the operations, and you also saw the education fund. The circuit breaker losses are minimal. Student transfers from out of district have really helped. We have a net gain of our students that the border schools and also the state of Indiana with White's Junior Senior High School and the Bridge program we have. The opportunities that we have are low tax rate, below the median, managed tax rate, developed debt plan, expand out of district transfers, and creation of long range planning. And of course, we look at weaknesses in the SWOT analysis of student capacity in the buildings, 2 high school buildings, double services, aging buildings, facility updates, lack long range facility plan, and lack debt plan. And then some of the threats, of course, declining enrollment, which is also declining population, state legislation funding, which is the open enrollment, resistance to facility needs and upgrades, additional required programming, and unexpected growing costs of like COVID-19 and certain situations like that. So what is the challenge? The challenge, if you have been to any of our meetings, we put this up here. We received this from Rural Wabash County, but the projected population decline, you can see in the heyday of Wabash County around the mid-1980s. And then you can also see in the narrative on the left-hand side there, I don't think you can read that very well, but the 2010 to 2020, the census, we actually lost 1,912 residents in Wabash County. When you think about 1,900 people in a large population, of course it's all relative, but in a small population of 31 or 30,000 people, that's a large percentage. So the same thing that, so that is, you know, when we say what is the challenge, that's part of the challenge. And so if you look at that graph, picture that in your mind, look at the next one. It doesn't match up exactly because part of it is the ADM or the enrollments that we had dating back to 1976. We have not found all of that data, but you can look at the data, just the high schools. We're not talking about the junior senior high schools, but we're talking about 9 through 12. You can see in 76, 77, 980 students combined. And you can see there's a big gap there after 81, 82. But then you can see presently, and I will tell you the other number here, but 2021 and 2022 are exactly the same. We have 509 students combined in the high schools. So you can see it's almost 50% less from the 76, 77 when they were built. There was some data that we found that the 2 different schools at one time had 778 students and 782 students in those schools. In the heyday, in the population of Wabash County was a lot larger. And now, approximately 380 in one school and 420 in the other. So quite a big difference. So student opportunities. I think I'm going to turn this over. I don't think we talked about this, but you helped develop this, so I'm going to let you talk about it, Mr.
All
Gray.
right, then. Actually, if we go back to the slide before that. So when we look at programming, as the Chief Academic Officer, I like to audit the programs we offer our students. We try to stay competitive with other schools our size. And so I can find their class offerings online. And sometimes I can meet with guidance counselors. Sometimes schools get to be very protective of what they're offering. And so I've done that twice. I've met with Mr. Kefever to go over those lists. And our class offering is very comparable to schools that are obviously now much bigger than we are. And so our opportunities are very strong. The catch, of course, is, I'm going to steal a phrase from Mr. Goldman, a critical mass of students. And so we may offer those classes, but in order for those to fit into student schedules, then we need to have a critical mass of students to make that work. And so some of the other challenges that come from not having that critical mass, meaning so many students to fill those classes, sometimes we have a hard time getting teachers to do those. And so we have tried to drive one teacher on the north, we'll drive half day and then go to the south or vice versa. And so that presents its own challenges. And so I know that sometimes I live in this world, so I could talk about it. It makes great sense to me, but maybe those of you that haven't built a master schedule, it doesn't. And so I worked with our marketing director, Laura, you can try it out, Laura Lange-Bartels, and she and I concocted this scenario here. This is not an accurate statement. Bobby doesn't really exist. The schedule that is there is not a real schedule. But I wanted to put it together so you could see our challenge. Because we do offer lots of classes, but in order for those to fit in a student like Bobby's schedule, it's not so easy. So the scenario we set up, Bobby, been playing in band for 6th grade, and he's a welder. We love our work at Heartland Career Center. They do a great job giving kids career certifications. Many of those kids are going to go make as much money as I do without even needing to go to college. And so we love to send kids there. The catch with Heartland, though, is when you go to Heartland, you go for 3 hours a day. Their program is that long, and that's because it's very intensive. And so it's a great program, but then if Bobby's trying to fit other things in the schedule, then he has to kind of offset that with that choice. And so to be a senior, he'll have to take English 12 if he wants to graduate on time, and we want Bobby to graduate. And he'll need to take government one semester and econ the next semester. And so his first and third period are fine. After lunch, he'll go to Heartland, where he'll take welding capstone and he'll graduate with a welding certificate. But you'll see period 2, CAD 3 is only offered period 2. CAD 3 is taught by Gary Dale. Gary Dale is one of those teachers, and so he'll teach at Southwood in the afternoon, and he teaches at Northfield in the morning. And so that then locks the schedule for people that want to take CAD. We have a great CAD program. Lots of our kids go on to architecture. As a matter of fact, Mrs. Moore is nodding because her daughter went through that and went to Ball State as an architect. And that's a very difficult field to get into. And so the kids do very well, so the opportunity is there. The challenge is getting it to fit in their schedules. And so Bobby really wants to take CAD 3. However, Bobby has loved band. And again, because of our tight schedule, we can only offer band 1 period. And it just so happens this year that band is going to be offered 2nd period the same time that CAD 3 is. And so this happens all across Homestead, Carmel. I mean, big schools have the same problem. It just becomes more magnified the smaller the student population is. And so I think a community our size is used to a 2A school, 120, 150 kids in there. And so to maintain that level of programming becomes a challenge as we get smaller, because then that tightens up that schedule. And so it's difficult to say in a nutshell, because our programming is very strong. We will offer great classes, and we will let classes go with 2 kids in them. The school board and our financials allow us to do that. There are a lot of school districts that 10's the minimum. If they don't get 10, sorry, you don't get to take that class. That's not how it is for us. However, then if there's only 2 kids in it, that tightens up that teacher's schedule. And so maybe they can't get other classes that they want. And so I don't know. If that doesn't make sense, or you want me to talk about that later on, I'm happy to do that. The long and the short is our program offerings are outstanding for schools our size. They frankly are. The catch is, of course, getting those so that they can fit, so we can have multiple sections of that. I'm not getting a lot of nods, so I'll say it another way. If we had more kids, if we had a bigger school, you might offer band 2 periods in the morning, right? Or CAD could be offered 2 periods in the morning, and that might shuffle his schedule around just enough to fit those classes in. Whereas, because it's such a tight schedule, you can only offer band that 1 period. I appreciate you nodding. At least that makes me feel like
And I guess I want to put a personal data in there too that we talked about too. So when we talk about a 2A school, 1A school, 3A school, or whatever, we're not talking about large schools here when we combine, when we're thinking about combining. For example, my senior class, when I graduated, it's been a long, long time ago, but 130 students. This year, Northfield and Southfield combined, we have about 111 students graduate combined. So less combined compared to my one class.
Can I say one more thing? Before I leave that, we have amazing guidance counselors at the high school. Roger Boone, Nicole Michael, Brian DuBois, Amelia France. Like Roger Boone he won't finish Southwood's schedule for another 3 weeks because he just wants to pour over it to make sure every student can get every possible. And so he'll work combinations, and I kind of like to do that. So sometimes he lets me play in that. But we have amazing people who do the best to make sure that class fits. And it wouldn't be solid, right? If we go 2A and we do combine both high schools, kids are still going to have to make choices. However, I feel like to maintain the level of programming that we're used to having, right, we need to grow that population a bit.
So building use efficiency. This is just some data as far as the 2021 building cost. I don't know if Dr. Kuhn wants to mention any more of this, but you can see that we have the different columns of the schools that we have presently, the salary, the benefits, the capacity. You can see that of how much the capacity of those schools are at present, and then of course the building cost compared to the total district cost when you combine all of the district costs of those. So when we're looking at this, we are looking at the one high school and then eventually repurposing juniors, Southwood and Northwood Junior Senior High School, so it'd be a 3 building district. And so you can look at how that would save actually cost avoidance for some of that programming. Not programming, I'm sorry, but some of the costs. You want to mention anything?
No, I mean, that's just really a 30,000 foot view on our overall expenses for what it costs to operate our buildings. Looking at salary and benefits, and then you add into other things such as supply costs, repairs and maintenance costs, utility costs, construction costs. And then you also add into the fact from the district level, some of those costs aren't always building specific when we talk about things like insurance. Some of our staffing are shared between buildings. And so those are a little bit harder to break down because those aren't necessarily specific to buildings. But if we didn't have our buildings, we wouldn't have those costs still necessarily. So this just, like I said, gives you a 30,000 foot view. This is based off of last calendar year. Our school finances typically operate on a fiscal year. Obviously, we're not done with the fiscal year because the fiscal year ends in June 30th. So this is based off of the 2021 calendar year costs, which would give you a similar idea regardless if it's fiscal or calendar. But that just kind of shows you what those overall costs look like from a year to year standpoint, even though this is just a 1 year reflection.
So what is the solution? Build a new high school. Grades 9 through 12 currently at Northfield and Southwood would combine into one new high school. The current Northfield and Southwood Junior Senior High buildings would transition into buildings for preschool through 8th grade. This would transition MSD WC traditional schools from 5 buildings into 3 buildings. So student opportunities, maintain and enhance academic offerings, maintain and enhance extracurricular offerings, and consistent course scheduling. And building efficiency. So efficiency in staffing will result in increased opportunities for our staff and utility and maintenance cost. So this is a possible timeline. People would ask, what would the possible timeline of this decision be made? So these are estimated date ranges that are subject to change. So with a referendum on November 8th, 2022, referendum passes, then you can see how that goes from the architectural drawings from 2022 to 2023, and that would also include then bids during that time, groundbreaking in March of 24, and then March of 2027, new high school complete, so 3 years later, and then open the new high school in August of 2027, and then do some transition of the other junior senior high schools at Southwood and Northfield to become the elementaries. And you can see those dates there, the 2027, 2028, 2028, 2029, and then of course, possibly the transition to 3 schools complete by 2029, 2030. So again, going full circle, the priorities of looking at our strategic plan, student achievement, That would increase that. Recruitment and retention, give us other possibilities for that. Financial, be more efficient, cost avoidance. And then facilities and technology, of course, provide safe and efficient learning environments. So strategic plan number 4, additional opportunities for students, facility improvements, maintenance and upgrades, building use efficiencies. And so 62 years after the creation of MSDWC, we want to propel MSD of Wabash County for the next 60 plus years. So that's the end of my presentation.
Okay. I'll let you go next. We will now hear from Jim Elizondo from Stiefel Nicholas and Company about the proposed project, how it will be financed, as well as information about the effect on the typical property taxpayer. Let's see. This information will be shown in the resolutions that we have. Construction costs, cost of issuance, equal total project, principal and estimated interest, annual lease rental, interest rate, tax rate increase, and impact on how the proposed project will be financed, as well as information about the effect on the typical property taxpayer.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sitting down, you've shared what I'm supposed to talk about.
Yeah. Now you get the hard part of talking about it.
Where I'd like to step in is, we'll start with an estimate of the budget that these projects have been presented. That we estimate that to be. Ultimately, look how we put that in and around your existing debt service, and then finish up with what we estimate taxpayer impact would be. Again, every one of us knows our taxes are different from our neighbors, so we're going to give you some estimates based on some basic assumptions, but then there will be at some point during this referendum process a calculator online that you'll be able to go in and put your own information in and get, you know, a very specific, yes, if you decide to proceed after the next hearing. But if we can start with the next slide. I want to start first with some of the assumptions we've used in our analysis and presentation. First, you have 9 different taxing districts in the school district, and by taxing districts, if you live in a township, you would have it your overlying and underlying tax plus the school tax rate in your township. If you live in Wabash or Rowan or any other incorporated area, you also have a different level of taxes. I just wanted to highlight that because we all currently have a very different tax rate structure in and around the school district. The lowest rates appear for Waltz Township at $1.2783 per $100 of assessed value. And the highest tax rate we're seeing is in the Wabash City portion that falls under MSD Wabash at $3.3788 per $100 of assessed value. That's only on there as a starting point that tax rates are different among all of us, and you have a very diverse group of taxpayers. Next, our assessed value assumptions. Basically, as we try to project forward tax impacts and how that might happen, we need to look at the assessed value and make projections as how that might grow in the future. You have utilized policy analytics to do reviews a couple times for you on this and have recently been updated. I want to just share some information from theirs, and we have incorporated their estimates into our modeling. First, your 10-year historic AV growth has been about 1.9% per year. Your actual rate of growth in 22 was 5.4% for last year. They're projecting an average over the next out through 32 of 3.6%. Their models are defined enough that it's not just a flat 3.2% that we carry out. They have given us 6%, 5%, 3%, a trend line that we then have incorporated into our estimates. That is reflective of growth in the community. It's also reflective of farm-based assessed values starting to come up and their projection of those increasing. So it's a combination of all a very thorough study of your assessed value. And finally, for all of our modeling, we're talking about using a bond issue to fund these projects. And so At your next hearing, if you decide to proceed, you will, as a board, be setting maximums for the future. You can always pare those back. If interest rates are lower, when we sell bonds, that can pare it back, but you'll be setting maximum. So we want to use a conservative interest rate. So all of my modeling is using 1.5% over the current market. I think in prior bond issues that I've been here before you, we've used as low as 0.5% to 1% over the market. But as all of you watch our news and the ongoing issues in Ukraine, et cetera, our markets have had shown increases in interest rates and volatility. So we're trying to be conservative there. So we're using 1.5% over the current market. If we were in the markets today, you'd be on a 20-year financing somewhere in the 3.5% to 3.75% tax exempt, which is still historically a low interest rate. But a year ago we were at 1.5% to 1.75%. So there's been quite a bit of change there. If we go to the next slide. We'll start with an estimated budget of $115 million bond issue. If you had the cash on hand, and I will tell you, there is one school district in Indiana that has $115 million to put towards a project. But if you did, 100% of that would go towards brick and mortar, engineering, architecture fees, etc. But because we have to go to the bond markets, we have other costs involved. So I'm going to break down some of that. So of that $115 million, we would estimate that you would have about $113,400,000 or so available for hard and soft construction, engineering, architecture, everything you need for the building. In addition, we have a couple items that need to be added when we do a bond issue. First one is capitalized interest. It's minimal. I have it at about $385,000 change. Capitalized interest is interest we put into the bond issue to help make payments in lieu of the school corporation making payments. In this case, I have a little bit in there to smooth tax rate that first year, to be a tool if we need to smooth the tax rate. If we don't, we pull that out and that goes right to construction or reducing the size of the bond issue. And then the final item would be cost of issuance. That's attorneys, underwriting fees, that's selling the bonds to the public, title insurance, all of those things fit as cost of issuance. And I've used a conservative estimate of about $1,170,000. Hope is that pares back, but again, I wanted to try to build a realistic worst case picture for us today. So now we go to the next slide. How do we fund and how does that $115 million fit in and around your existing debt service fund? And ultimately, how do you pay for that with taxes? The blue represents your existing debt service tax rate fund from 2016 through 2023. 23 is an estimate, 22 is an actual number. So you'll see in 16 and 17, we had a little higher rate. Historically, it was higher there, but we gradually, as debt paid off, we dropped down and held kind of in that 29-cent range through 2018 through 21. And that's really when this process started. If we go back to Mike's time schedule, the planning all started in 2019, and that's kind of where we started to look at this from a base standpoint. But also some things happened in 2022. We experienced that large assessed value growth, the 5.4%, and that drove those rates down, even though there wasn't really a change in debt service. And then our projection is driving the 2023 rate down, only because using policy analytics estimate, it's over 6%. And I live in Allen County. I will tell you, I'm afraid I got my reassessment notice, and I'm up much more than Southwest Allen County grew last year. So my guess is across the board, just higher home value sales is driving some of that. So I'm pretty comfortable that that drop will be some, I can't say that's the right drop, but there will be an anticipated drop in '23. The issue also is you're not ready, according to that time schedule, to actually put debt on. So there may be some periods where we have that little bit of a drop, but then we're gonna go back up. What I wanna show is 29.18 cents per $100 of assessed value is where I'm paring back and making a comparison to your historic kind of tax rate in debt service, if that makes sense. We go to the next slide. This is what an amortization of approximately $115 million might look like in the red. Put into the debt service fund. The next slide will share with us that that's about a 54 cent per $100 of assessed value increase to the debt service tax rate over what we were experiencing 19, 20, 21, 2021 as our starting point. So that is our first reference point is, roughly a 54 cent increase in that debt service tax rate over and above what you were historically paying up through 2021. If you go to the next slide, part of the resolutions that you have no resolutions this evening, but part of the resolutions, after the next hearing, you'll be asked to consider setting some maximums. And those maximums will be tied to the worst case scenario for this debt on its own, ignoring all your other debt, just this debt. And you'll see that we have, for this debt alone, 83 cents per $100 of assessed value as an estimated max with about a $10,400,000 maximum lease payment. And that is what you're setting, that maximum lease payment. That's again based on 1.5% and 20 years of repayment. You'll be asked to consider that as a maximum in those resolutions. Now, if we go to the next slide, there are a couple other things that, Mr. President, you read some of the things that we needed to highlight in the hearing. These are some of those items, and I'll go through them with you so you know what they are. And again, they will be in the PowerPoint as you have on your website, etc. But current debt service levy for 2022 is $1,947,829. Your current debt service tax rate levy is 25.61 cents per $100 of assessed value. The maximum term of the lease is 22 years. I just said 20 years in the financing. The state of Indiana only allows you to finance for up to 20 years. However, the lease will be for 22 years because we need to add enough cushion that if there are delays or anything in the process, you don't have to start over. So again, it's all going back to the idea that we're trying to set maxims that we can stay within. But ultimately, you cannot finance for more than 20 years. The estimated total interest, again, using very conservative interest rates, about $71 million. The debt service rate to net assessed value. These are two ratios that the bond markets look to as bond buyers evaluate how much interest they should earn when they buy your bonds. It's also something the legislature has added within the last few years as something they wanted to have as a comparison point among different school districts. But the first one is your existing debt service to net assessed value, and that's 1.31%. That fits in the low to moderate range. If you were to put this debt on there, you would move into the moderate, but not the high. You'd be pushing to the high, but still in what the bond market would consider moderate. The outstanding and overlapping underlying debt takes a look at how much debt do you have outstanding. So how much is obligated, not payments, but total outstanding debt, plus any outstanding debt in the county, townships, towns, libraries, etc., and the share your taxpayers have in that. So as an example, you may make up 50% of the county debt, so if the county has $5 million outstanding, we would attribute 50% of that to this number. Again, that comes in at about 3.38%, fitting in the low to moderate range. So again, those ratios, when I throw them on there, I want to try to relate them a little bit to you as a board of where you fit in and among your peers nationwide. This is not statewide, we're talking about buyers nationwide, and so, we look at those ratios and say, this doesn't scare anybody away from a bond standpoint. It still will be an attractive Indiana bond issue when and if you decide to proceed. Next. Okay, now we start to talk about, you'll see I've highlighted the 9 different taxing districts. And we're starting with the median value of homes in each of those taxing districts. And that again was provided by Policy Analytics. So we'll start with Largo Township. You'll see the median value of a home in Largo is 100. What is
LaGrow.
Thank you.
Welcome to Wabash County.
There we go. And I've learned it down in southern Indiana, the boys and Hobart. Hobart.
Hobart,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So I apologize. So we'll get that. Now I'm afraid to even say it.
Sorry.
LaGrow. In LaGrow Township, median value home is $149,400. In LaGrow, the city or town is $45,400. Liberty Township, $146,700. Trying to find where the light's best for me to look. LaFontaine, the Fountain is $78,300. Noble Township, $150,200. City of Wabash, $142,300. Papa, $154,500. Ryan, $82,000, and Waltz, $52,120. The reason I'm starting there is that is the median house. Obviously, when I started, I opened with the idea that all of our houses have different values. This is trying to reflect the market value of your home. Again, all of our market values of our home, until you sell them, who knows what they are, but they're all assessed at a certain level. So these are market value homes. From that, we then would take away any of the credits, exemptions, etc., to get to your net assessed value. And then we calculate the tax rate on that net assessed value. If you have any circuit breaker credits, 65 and older, veterans, etc., those come out of that assessed value before we calculate the tax impact. So if you follow on that, if we go to LaGrow Township, the estimated tax impact would be $351 per year or $29 a month. And as we read across, you'll see that goes from 48, 342, 101, 354, 326, 369, 114, and 282, with monthly ranging from $4 to $31 per month. Those are all different because our base assumption is different in that we're looking at individual houses with different prices. If we go to the next slide, I throw in the base assumption of a $100,000 home. And the point of this is to show you that the tax impact is equal among all taxing districts when you go to referendum. The circuit breaker tax credits remain in place, but when you go to referendum, this debt would be outside of the circuit breaker cap. So that means every taxing district shares equally in the payment of that, and that's what you'll see there. A $100,000 home in every taxing district would experience about $177 increase per month, or per year, or $15 per month. If we go to the next slide, any of you that have farms and farmland, you know there's no simple estimate here. To give everybody a little quick share of that is every acre of farmland is assessed at various production levels, and it starts with a base assessment from the state that is set every year based on a formula. So as an example, if you have an acre that's 100% tillable, but you have a wet area that doesn't produce very good, or isn't very productive, you may have different ratios. Part of that land may be at 120% of the base value. Some of that land may be at 90% of the base value. And so it's a convoluted idea, but I wanted to share at least a very basic idea, and that is $100,000 of 100% tillable land at the base assessed value. So at a ratio of 100% or 1 times the base value. So it's a very simplistic approach, but again, you see the $542 across the board or $45 per month. For farmland, every farm will have various assessment or various production factors. A lot will have homesteads on them, you'll have outbuildings, etc. So from a farm standpoint, when that calculator comes in place, you need to sit down with your assessed values and check out and actually run a number to find out exactly what it is to you. But finally, if you do know that number, the next slide shows the formula we use. And the formula is the 54.17 cents per $100 of assessed value. You multiply that times your net AV. Now there is a TIF value that is calculated, and that should not be in part of that calculation. That's already calculated into the 54 cents. So the next version will have that plus TIF scratched out of there. The actual formula is the 54 cents times the net assessed value divided by 100 is the way you could calculate your own, but we'll modify that. That is all I have for my part of the presentation. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. President.
Okay. All right. We'll now open the public hearing. Remember, if you'd like to speak, sign in on the sheet here. I see a lot of names, but not very many people that have signed up to actually want to speak. I will offer another chance for you to do that, even if you've not signed this. As I mentioned earlier, just state your name and address and limit your comments to the proposed project, financing, and keep your comments around 3 minutes. And also, let's try to avoid being repetitive. So without any further ado, first person who has said yes, they would like to speak is Brittany.
Yes. Do
Would
you
you please
know?
stand?
Oh, yeah, please. Do you know approximately how many jobs may be lost in this scenario?
And you are Mike Rigney,
Yes.
and your address?
Fountain. 1137 South Bend Road.
We would not know that answer.
Yeah, not at this time. And so we're projecting out, you saw the timeline.
Right.
So the timeline, obviously, we have retirements and different things and not knowing class size and things like that. So those are some of the things that we would look at. And so we're actually going to look at an FAQ. And so I'm going to add that one on the FAQ.
Okay.
And it's going to be, it obviously would have to be a prediction.
Right.
Because we're looking at, this would be something that would be 5-6 years down the road. And so somewhat of a, looking at data and looking at retirements and all those different things that we would look at. So I'll put that on there now.
I also want to commend you on the work you did on this, finding out how all this is, and I understand why it needs to be, why you're looking into this. It's for academic purposes mainly, getting better programs. I still think that what the board's failed to do is to give us options. You've given us one option, and that's your option to look at. What if this referendum failed? What are you going to do? That's what I want to know. What happens? Back to the drawing board, go back to reconfiguration. Do you finally look at a consolidation? Those are the things. This is a lot of money to spend on something where we're given one option to look at, and that's it. I would like to see the other options, how much that costs. I know there got to be a lot less money than the 106 or 115 million, and they would accomplish the same goals of getting more programs, closing down a few buildings to save money. We're not able to see those options, and you know, we're not given a choice. We're given your option and that's it. So that's about all I have.
Thank you. The next person that said anything, she put a question mark, Mary Kramer.
Oh, yeah, I'll say something. My name is Mary Kramer, thank you for your time. My husband and I graduated from Wabash High
And you're
School.
from,
I'm from 3757 Mill Creek Pike, we're in the Southwood District. But my husband and I both graduated from Wabash back in the heyday, 75 and 77.
Okay.
But my kids both graduated from Southwood in 2005, 2007. And while I understand the need, programming is very important to me. My son, in his senior year, had to drive from Southwood to Northfield so he could take Jim Wenrich's physics class. And in the course of that, there was a car accident involved. Just he and 2 other students had some issues with that. So programming is, to me, the utmost importance. My concern, though, is being short-sighted, and I realize that this is a very sensitive subject, but commenting as we have that Wabash County population has gone down so dramatically. In the last year or two, 185 is a countywide project with Manchester, Wabash, and all the surrounding incorporated cities. That's determined that perhaps consolidation is something we could consider. And again, I realize that's sensitive for everyone, but I don't want MSD to be short-sighted and invest this enormous amount when there may be another option that should be addressed.
we're gonna ask that you please keep your comments about the project at hand. Consolidation is not the project at hand.
And I realize that. My concern is just the short-sightedness. Perhaps this isn't the right time. I realize that you are on a time frame, and I understand that completely.
Okay.
But I just hope that you consider further down the line that there may be a better step, that maybe right now we need some further information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan Rosine, you have maybe. Have you changed your mind? Is that a yes? Is that a no?
Mine are pretty similar. I'm Ryan Rosine, I live around the corner on 300 West. I don't want to get argumentative, I don't want to get tempers raised, but that's a very valid question. I want to reiterate, it is a part of this because it is an option. You're talking about one option. This is a great point. You're talking about 115 million in a time of almost unprecedented inflation. They're talking about $10 a gas by the end of the summer, and you want us to pay $115 million. What other options are there? You failed at reconfiguration how many years ago? 4. That was a necessity. 6, however many years ago. The necessity of that situation didn't change, and you didn't do anything since then. Why is there not another option? Why are we not looking at the forecasted continuing decline in population and looking further down the road? Why? This has been on the docket for a long time. We had these conversations 10 years ago when I sat on the school board. Nothing's changed. It's getting worse. And now we want to pay a whole bunch of money. What's the other options? And why aren't you pursuing them? Or at least looking at them? I've got some answers outside of here, and they're prejudiced. And it's wrong. Somebody's got to come up with an answer that's not prejudiced. Because I've heard those kids and those people for way too long. If it's about kids and education, there's a better way to do it.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Steve Ford. It says depends on discussion. What do you
That was
think?
my way of hedging thought.
I know, that's why I'm asking what you're thinking. Have you decided?
I'll just say thank you for a wonderful presentation, and I have a chance to sit in and listen. Appreciate Tim's comments in particular on the synergies involved with maybe consolidating classes and combining those things. Critical mass can offer too. And I would just offer that if anybody has any interest in conversing with the business community on subjects of synergy, subjects of how schools are perceived in terms of hiring, recruiting the Wabash, my door's open, and be glad to host those conversations or coordinate those if ever helpful. So just an offer there, and again, thanks for the chance to listen.
Well, that's actually all who signed up to speak. If anybody else would like to speak, you're free to do so at this point. Just I'd ask you to state your name and address and eventually sign this sheet when you're done.
Jeremy Waite, 203 East Kendall Street, McFarland, Indiana.
Okay.
I actually am really concerned about what would happen if you go to vote for this and it doesn't pass. What's the backup? I mean, nothing's been said about a backup. All I've heard about is, just like everybody else said, this one option. And I just think it's really kind of a silly time to be looking into spending a ton of money for, you know, I'm not real versed in all the, you know, all everything that goes into it, the education part of it, but I do feel like financially it's not a good decision at this point. And so if that happens, what are we going to do after that? Okay. Is there anybody have any idea? I mean, I figured we would get some kind of answer when it comes to that. And also, I think we're missing the point as far as the population goes. I think that the people in this county are heavily taxed, and to ask them to pay more is egregious. I mean, not only is assessments going up, and I'm sure everybody sitting in here understands that, and then you've got Lloyd taxes upon, you know, more tax. Everybody wants more and more and more. At what point is enough? We got to figure out a different way.
Bless you.
So, I mean, at what point does another option come out, or a backup plan? You know, at what point does that come out?
Yes. Carol.
I'm Carol Cly, and I signed everything, but I didn't sign that one to speak.
Oh, wait.
And my question, well, everyone else is looking at other options, but when we're talking about a class being offered at Northfield that a student at Southwood wants to take, 10 years ago, maybe it wasn't possible, but now they can do it on the internet. They don't have to be physically in the class to take it. So if a teacher wanted to be at Northfield 2 days a week and at Southwood 2 days a week, the kids would share the burden of doing the online classes. I don't see a need here. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't see a need for a new high school. Not when our enrollment is declining every single year. And with the technology we've got today, we don't need the physical building. That's all.
Yes.
Matt Burkhart, 594 West, 250 South. Have you looked for, can you disclose possible locations of the district?
Yep, looking at north of Heartland Career Center, between 150 West and 200 West. One moment. Somebody's phone. Working on that.
Never mind. Just trying to find your address.
Big brother's always looking out, Mr. Lacy. Big brother. Yes.
Yes.
He's gonna get Facebook ads soon about whatever.
That's right. That's right. I'm shopping for high school.
Todd, do you guys have an answer for your backup plan? Nobody's answered it yet. And this will go to referendum, and if it doesn't pass, there needs to be a plan, correct?
I want to reiterate tonight's purpose is to gather questions and concerns that you have. We will put together, we will answer these questions. We're not going to do that tonight. We're going to issue a FAQ, and it'll be part of that.
So you have
an answer for that? Yeah. Okay.
Will we know the cost of this land, how much it's being sold for, or how much?
That's built into the price for
But
the,
we won't know exactly how much it costs per acre or whatever.
I would think that would be
Okay.
yeah, I was gonna say, I would think that would be public knowledge, but then we'll have to, you know,
Okay.
at some point when we make that actual purchase, it'll be on the record.
Mr. Daisy.
Yes.
Adam Stakeman, 242 West Hill Street, Wabash. Two boys that go to MSD, go to Northfield. I commend you for the work that you've put in to this project to this point. I know it goes back many years. I would, like everybody else has stated, you are all in a tough position. Something needs to be done with our buildings, and there are things that we do have to do to progress forward. So you guys are in a tough position. But I think back to the way that they started your presentation with the original board members of MSD. They were also in a very tough position at the time with the township schools and a lot of residents that were opposed at that time to consolidation. So they were never going to make everybody happy, but they had a plan. They kind of had to take that leap of faith and progress. And obviously they had a vision. And here we are 60 some odd years later, and it's worked out well. I ask that you board members also look into the future, not at our problems that we have right today in the current environment with our buildings and the maintenance, and making sure that kids are taken care of with the class they need, to think forward 60 years in what our county, what the state of education will look like, what this whole Northeast Indiana will look like at that time. Make decisions based off of the big picture. It's tough. Nobody can see it, but do your best and not just solve the problems that we're dealing with today.
Kenneth?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank everybody. I do have a question. We obviously have a great school system here. We want to build new buildings. What's going to happen to the old buildings? What are they going to be, I mean, I know this kind of getting outside, but we've got an old jail, we're building a new jail. What's going to happen to the old schools? I mean, Rowan doesn't exist now, Urbana doesn't exist now. OJ, because that's the end of the city. But, a lot of schools have been shut down. So if you get rid of Northfield, Southwood, Metro North, Sharp Creek, are those all gonna go bye-bye? And what are you gonna do with those buildings? What are you gonna do with that property? And where is the new facility gonna be built? Because you're gonna have kids south of town, you're gonna have kids north of town, you're gonna have more bus traffic. There's gonna have to be more safety issues, because you're gonna have to more bus travel to shuttle these kids back and forth to school, to their homes. How's that gonna play an effect? But the main thing is, what's gonna happen in these other buildings? what are you gonna do with them? Where's the money? I mean, who's gonna buy them? Is it gonna go back to the taxpayers when you sell them? Or is it gonna go to fund the new school facility?
I can answer that, because part of that's part of this program, so. So I don't know if you heard everything on the presentation too, but, so building the new high school, we talked about the location of that, and actually Siri was helping us to try to find that too, and Mr. Lacy's phone. But along those lines, then Northfield and Southwood would be repurposed into our elementaries, okay? And so you're right, there would be, so eventually, there would be 3 buildings that you would have to follow Indiana code as far as leaving them empty if someone else wanted to purchase or something like that. But just like we did and like other schools do, they have to make decisions where they sell them, or they demolish them, whatever. I mean, but those are some of the decisions that have to be made. Of course, the fountain was one of those that was closed earlier, and that was purchased and been used. And so anyway, that's part of that.
But as far as demolition, then that goes back onto the taxpayers. Because your demolition, you're getting rid of that building, and then you still have the property, but somebody's still gonna have to maintain that property. I mean, it just can't go up in the weeds.
Right. Yeah.
They're gonna sell it off.
Right, there's options that we have to follow through Indiana code, which we would not know that until we got way out there to like 2029, 2030, something like that. So good questions, but those are the things that, it would have to be in a transition period. And you have to follow Indiana code of how those are opened up to the community and for any other person that would like to purchase them. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Put that on that FAQ.
Mr. Daisy, can I just have one question? Sure. Thank you, and I didn't speak my full 3 minutes, so I'll just trying to help you out here. I'm just curious, next Tuesday's meeting on the 31st, can you kind of give us an idea of what will transpire, or any decisions that will be made at that time?
I will definitely speak to that, because yes, if we continue to go forward at next week's meeting, I believe the schedule requires us to vote on a resolution.
There's several resolutions.
Several resolutions, and so whether or not we proceed will actually be voted on next week.
Just at what point do we find out what the other options are? Is there at the next meeting, or after you guys decide on whether you go forward, or is it going to be after you go forward and it is voted down? At what point do we find out what the other options are?
As the FAQs running.
Yeah, I do the FAQ on that. So.
Okay.
I will say that all of those things have been discussed though in all of our work sessions, in our strategic plan. So the strategic plan, we're looking at those 4 priorities and what matches with the 4 priorities with what we feel like is the best plan going forward. And so those have been discussed, I will say that. But we have to try to follow, or not try to, we are following the strategic plan and those priorities.
Okay.
But,
and I would say too that those meetings, as I would reiterate what we said earlier evening, those meetings are available online. And I know this is somewhat short notice to you, because I follow Facebook too, and I know you have felt blindsided. But we've advertised these for almost 3 years now.
Yeah, but there's
and so I would encourage you to go out on our MSD page and watch some of those live meetings of our public work sessions, and get a lot of those answers that we've already spoke to in public meetings. Yes.
Janet Lyons from Rowan. I grew up in Somerset. How long of a bus ride is it going to be for the kids from the southwest corner of the district to the new high school? Are you going to have buses to drop off kids, pick up kids, like we used to do at Metro North to go to Northfield when my kids were in school? I mean, I know I was on the bus for 45 minutes from Somerset to Southwood.
Yeah, the new,
It's a good question.
yeah, part of the program, so I think you.
It's a new cut or build.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, well, at this point, I'm gonna like to thank you for those of you who participated in this hearing. We appreciate your time and interest in the project and the future of our community. Please note, again, as I've said, this is just the first step in the legal process. No board action is legally required tonight. Rather, this hearing is solely to hear your public comments and to work with our administration professionals to look for efficiencies to conserve tax dollars and meeting our educational needs. This board will hold a second public hearing in this room on May 31st at 6 p.m. That will adjourn our determination hearing. We'll get back to the regular meeting. We're almost finished with that. We have no unfinished business, no board policy before us. Public comment, we've heard the public comment. Any items from board members?
I just have one thing, nothing pertaining to this, but any of you that know Ted Wilson, he was involved in a farm accident today. Basically lost his hand, and so please keep him in your prayers. He's at Fort Wayne right now, so just keep him in your thoughts.
His wife just had surgery too.
And Lindsay's got her knee replaced. So.
Anything else from any other board members? We're adjourned.